Hey guys, and welcome to this week's video where we are lucky enough to have Marianne Hynes, CEO and founder of Quantum Leap Global. And she's going to join us today to talk about leadership for business owners and how to build an effective workplace using leadership. So, Marianne, welcome and let's get into it.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I'm very honoured to
All
be
right,
part of your chat today.
right, let's do it, guys. So, Marianne, thanks for joining us today. And I actually saw, and I mean, just for the audience as well, they don't know, but like we've known each other for a while now, and we've had a great working relationship for quite some time. And I thought it was just like I saw one of your YouTube, sorry, I saw an interview on LinkedIn, and it really resonated with me, and it had to do with leadership, and it reminded me of a previous role I had in I guess when I didn't have my own business, but um, what you do and just like building leaders for business, like for business owners or leaders in businesses, managers, whatever you are, I think I love what you're doing. So I thought it'd be great for you to come onto our YouTube channel and talk about what it is you do, but give us a quick intro about who you are and what you love doing and why you do it.
Thank you. I think you touched on it a little bit. So, Quantum Leap Global is all about human potential, and in particularly in the setting of like a business or a team. So, we really partner with leaders and business owners that really want to create, sustain high performing environments. So our passion is people. It's all about people, and we believe fundamentally that every human has the right to feel safe and to be given the opportunity to thrive and bring their whole selves to work. So some of the angles that we take on that is first and foremost is helping leaders and business owners build psychologically safe environments. And I think this is what you were touching on with your experience. And I think we've all had that experience where we haven't felt safe to speak up, to bring our whole selves to work. And the impact on business is substantial because you're missing out on potentially that one idea or that collaboration that is going to make or break your business or take you to the next level. So psychological safety, really passionate about equipping leaders with it, because a lot of people want to be able to create these environments, but they actually just don't know how. So what are the behaviors that build it, but then what are the behaviors that take away from it and that force your team to, or some of your team, to sort of quieten down and hold back and not be present. But then on the other side of that as well, we've got the financial wellness component. So that's working with businesses and if they have existing employee assistance programs. So really bringing that holistic financial behavioural component to their program. So a lot of the programs at the moment have is, you know, budgets and planning and all of the strategic things which are really fundamental, but what they often miss is and can miss is the behavioural component that actually affect the way people spend money or view money and whether that's scarcity. So again, it's about financial stress. I mean, some of the stats are pretty stark. I think like 55% of employees are suffering from financial stress, and that affects well-being. And I think there was a recent stat sent out. I think it's $1,900 per employee is the cost to business per annum. So if you think about if you've got, say, I don't know, 50 people, that's
Yeah.
costing you about $50,000 in lost revenue. So that's another angle, and we work with leaders to create environments where all people can thrive, and that's addressing the stress component, but also addressing the psychological safety as well.
And this, I mean, this topic is so important for clients that we have out there because I mean, generally when clients come to us as their accountant, they say, well, they want to make more profit, and it's, I mean, on the surface, it's pretty simple. Well, we'll just increase your revenue and decrease your expenses, and you'll have more money. But there's so much more to it to increase that that line, that top line, that revenue line. And even like we look at creating efficiencies, and you know if there are blocks or issues there with your employees, as leaders, it's so important to ensure that you can remove those blocks and help them be the best that they can be. And I think
Absolutely.
definitely, and I've been in a workplace, and I touched on it before, where I don't think I was being utilized to my full potential. And and it did have an impact on me, and that's probably why I think that I am the leader I am today in my business, and why we've been so successful is that I've seen the failures of what has happened to me, and I'm so conscious of making sure that it doesn't happen to my employees, and I always want them to make it feel like it's a warm place where you know where we're all equal, we all work towards the one common goal. But
Absolutely, and I think you touched on a really important point. I think most of us have probably had a similar experience, unless you're one of the very lucky fews. But it's the reason why I became a leader, because I never had that mentor or coach or someone guiding me through how it's done, and I didn't want my team or my business to go through the same, learn by trial and error that I had to go through, either being an employee or being a leader. So it's 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 a good learning point, and it's a driver for why I do what I do as well.
yeah, that's it. So one thing I wanted to touch on was, at the moment, whilst we're recording this, we in New South Wales are in lockdown due to, I guess, the new strain of COVID, and it's I guess it's reminded us of where we were uh, 12 months ago. But business isn't stopping, and for some it's been a little bit of a halt. For others, they're still going, but the environment has changed. So tell me, how can a leader in a business, whether they are the owner of the business or they might be, I guess, the manager or GM, whatever the title might be, how can they be a leader when you're pretty much absent and you're not physically there with your team?
So I think the first thing, and I've spoken to many leaders and around the globe as well, because this is obviously a global pandemic that I don't think any corner of the earth hasn't been touched by. But I think first and foremost, as a leader, you've got to manage your own well-being. Like leaders now and business owners are under a whole level of new pressure to not only meet business goals and KPIs, etc., but also that responsibility of managing their team's well-being as well. So I would first of all say that you absolutely have to make your own well-being a priority as a leader. But secondly, you have to remember that we're humans, and when we're working in this sort of environment now, I mean, you may be in your office, but you're in my home here. We're getting it's a lot more personal than it has ever been before. And if you've got kids at home and they're homeschooling, there's going to be pressures and conflicts that staff and leaders are going to be feeling. So I think second of all, don't forget that we're humans, and there's some very fundamental human skills that we really need to remember, and I think they are around deep presence. So you and I've got my phone turned off. I've turned off my Outlook notifications so that we can actually be present and have a genuine conversation, because I like, how are you going? Like, I want to know, and a genuine. So presence is really critical. Deep listening. So, a lot of the effects of mental health or challenges that employees and leaders may be having, you don't necessarily see. You have to listen for them. And to
Yeah.
listen, you actually have to be listening to understand, not be listening to tell or to respond and things like that. So presence, deep listening, and then, of course, compassion and empathy. We really need to bring that into where we are today, and I would say argue in life in general. I think it's something we can fall into the judgments and making assumptions, but by really being compassionate and showing empathy to our people, you'll be surprised at the trust that it builds. But also, I would also add, is showing compassion and empathy for self, because we can be pretty rough on ourselves, particularly if we feel like we're not meeting where we need to be. So showing presence, deep listening, compassion, and empathy is absolutely critical. And then carving out specific time to connect with all of your team, and remembering that some people are extroverted, and so they'll quite happily, ring you up and tell you how they're going, or if they're having a challenge. Some others are more introverted, keep their feelings to themselves and just try and, push through even when they may be struggling. So if you haven't heard from a team member for a couple of days or a week, then actually make the time to connect with them. Not so much about what they're delivering on and where they're up to, but actually a genuine conversation to say, how are you going? How can I support you? What do you need?
Yeah, yeah,
And just
yeah.
asking those simple questions.
It's so simple when you think about it, isn't it? Like,
Mm.
I know that for me personally in my business, Belinda, she's the I guess the person of first impressions. That was actually my first boss. He
And what
said,
a
like,
great first impression she
yeah,
makes.
I remember, like, and she's fantastic. But I remember that the first guy I worked for, Brian Lloyd, he said to me, he goes, like, you're the most important employee here. He said, don't worry about me. He said, when clients call through, they speak to you. So, make sure you're always happy and, always have a smile on your dial, and that shows through on the phone. And, Belinda always does that, but I know that, like, Belinda's the type of person where she does take her job very seriously, and I could see there was stress built up, and, working from home is going to be another pressure with kids and all that. And the one thing I've been doing is checking in with her, but even before she left to go work from home, I was like, look, the one thing I want you to do for me is, it's really important. I said, normally her routine is that, middle of the day she goes for a walk. She moves her car and she just gets out there and she has a break. Now I know if Belinda's working from home, she's probably going to work really hard and she won't move from that seat all day. So I said, what I want you to do is, middle of the day, when after you've had lunch or whatever and have a break, I said, I want you to get up and I want you to go for a walk for just 10 or 15 minutes, whatever it might be. I said, I know you're going to put your hard work in and all that. I'm not worried about the time, but it's really important you do that for your mental ability. And I know that you're starting to already build up some stress. So I said, it's important for you to go for that walk, because if you don't, you're going to just crack. And you're no good to anyone, to yourself, to your family, to me, if you fall apart. So, you know, most importantly, look after yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's as leaders we can model that, and by doing what you're saying is like creating the space for them, and it's almost like the permission granting to say this is important for all of us. So I think self-care can get a bit of it's selfish to be to show self-care, but actually it's fundamental to well-being for us to take care of our own needs, whatever that may look like for an individual, because what might work for you may be different for me. But I think providing that space and modeling as a leader is very powerful.
So if we were to look at the businesses that are out there, just looking at some stats, how many businesses do you think are out there where leadership or quality, or isn't where it needs to be? Like, and what are the effects if, say, for example, there isn't good leadership in a business?
Well, I don't have exact stats, although that is on my list to see if I can find the stats, particularly around because I've worked in some amazing teams and businesses and companies that are high performing, absolutely high performing, but they don't always necessarily have psychological safety. And through my studies and through my own experience around psychological safety, like it's an absolute foundation. And if you put that in place, as well as all of the high performance standards that most businesses have to some degree, whether or not they have accountability is another aspect that's a bit different. But it's just going to take the performance of the business to new levels that they actually haven't seen before, because you're bringing the power of the collective together rather than an individual one high performer. So, I mean, I would go to say that the vast majority of teams haven't got the full potential of their teams released yet, but a quick diagnostic and conversations with the team can actually really be telling about where those levers can be, so that you can start to unleash the whole potential, not just the potential of a select few. And the leadership component, well, it starts at the top, right? So if you don't have the leader that is passionate about creating thriving, inclusive environments where all people can bring their whole selves to work, then it's not going to happen. So it has to start at the top. And in our work, we work with the leaders at the top, and it has to be a top down as well, and that empowerment to the people, and like committing to creating these environments where all people, not just those part of the dominant culture, can thrive.
Yeah, that's good. So, what about some basic tips? I mean, some takeaways that that a business owner or a leader, like I said, a manager, can really work towards to start with, and get this get what we're talking about here going.
So the first part of being an impactful leader is actually knowing yourself. So what do you stand for as a leader? What are your values? And then what's your your motivation? Because whether you know that or not, and what's your purpose, whether you know that, that comes out in everything that you do. So if you're putting numbers over people, that will show in your
Mm,
action. You may say it in your words, but people are actually looking at your actions to see how that works. So when I'm working with leaders, whether that be one-on-one in coaching or whether that be from a business perspective, it is first of all about getting the leaders really connected with who they are and what they stand for. Other ones could be get a coach and a mentor, because you cannot up level yourself as a leader and with impact without having someone to sort of mirror, reflect, and sort of shine a light on some of the blind points that you may have, like the blind spots. We all have them. I certainly have them. I have had several coaches across my career that I've engaged just on a personal basis to help me break through to new levels of impact. And the other thing I would say is that when you're looking at leadership, the sort of old paradigm is about it's about me, command and control. My people are here to serve for me, they work for
mm,
me. Switching that around. So as a leader, you are actually there to be of service to your team, create the environment that they need to thrive. And by doing that and unleashing and taking the time to really spend on their development and how to make them achieve the goals that they want to achieve and perform to the levels that they want, because then in return you get like a high performing environment. So it's actually flipping it around to say, how can I be of service to my people, and create an environment where they want to stay and they're thriving, and it becomes this really flowing, rather than this tense, construct that doesn't serve either the leader, the individual employee, or the business. And I would finish off with saying that the power is in your people, and it's not in focusing solely on the dollar and managing it just from a dollar perspective. That is absolutely critical. And I promise you, you put everything into your people, that dollar will go up beyond previous unimagined levels. So, really focus on igniting the potential of each individual and then the team as a collective.
yeah. I want to touch on, I think it was your second or third tip, uh, and a lot of, I think when we think about coaches, particularly in a business sense, uh, I would say that a lot of people think that it's just the business owner, but it can also be for the employees, or even as an employee yourself. You can always get a career coach, someone to guide you. It's like, and the way I sort of look at it is, um, whether you want to call it advisor, coach, whatever the term is, the way you want to phrase it or describe it. But it's so important. Like, in sports, like we all have coaches. You look at all the high performing football, soccer teams and all that out there, they have a coach behind them.
Really.
So, if you want to be successful in whatever it is you're doing, having a mentor there to help you along the way is so imperative and so important. And like, I think both of us, like we both know each other really well. And I think we've both individually kicked goals because we've had someone there beside us to actually help us along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really critical. It's something that a lot of people, well, it's money invested, but it's money that you'll get back in tenfold. Not only from a fulfillment perspective, but hitting the goals that you want to hit in life.
Well, yeah, I think the big problem as well is that people, like, especially when they talk about business, they don't see that it's a tangible, that they're actually getting something. They don't see it's nothing, something. It's not physical. So yes, it's like it's an investment to the future about where you're going to go. And that's the best way. So if anyone at home is, watching this and going, well, I thought about doing this. Well, one thing I want you to take away, if you take away anything, is if you're going to get a mentor or a coach, it's an investment towards your future. And
Yeah, and I would add to that too is that make sure you find the right one for you. So actually, do they? I think most coaches offer discoveries, a discovery session or call, and you need to make sure that they've got the skills, that they've walked the path that you want to walk, because they're the ones that are really going to be able to guide you, push you, challenge you, reflect back, as well. So I would there's a lot of coaches out there. There's a lot of amazing coaches, but you got to make sure you're finding one that has actually walked the path that you want to walk and can help you go where you want to go.
yeah. So if anyone who's watching this and they want to reach out and seek your services, how can they find you?
So we've got a website, so Quantum Leap Dash Global, so QUANTUM. Leap, LEAP dash global. And then if you wanted to send an email, you can also just send one at info@quantumleap-global.com as well. And yeah, we will happily set up a discovery call, find out your needs and see if we can be of service.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely share those details underneath the comments here in the video, and I definitely do recommend reaching out to Marianne and her team, and we've been actually working together as well on this leadership material, and I think that it's making me a better business owner at the end of the day, and yeah, I really love what you're doing. So thanks for sharing your knowledge with us, and I
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. All right. Thanks. See you guys.